evening, everybody. I'm Janet Chandler. I work here at the Cullman Tribune, and I'd like to read you a really nice nighttime story from the Disney Bedtime Favorites book. Tonight, I'm going to read you from the movie Up by Disney Pixar. I'm going to read you the story Nightlights. I see one! I see one! Pull over, Mr. Fredrickson, Russell said. Carl swerved the station wagon to the side of the road. Is it a squirrel? Asked Doug as he jumped out of the car. Even better, said Russell. According to the Wilderness Explorer Guide to Flora and Fauna, it's a Japanese morning glory. They were headed to Sylvan State Park to earn Russell's Better Botanist badge, his first as a senior wilderness explorer. All he had to do was find and identify 10 varieties of wildflower. Only 9 more to go, he said, as he took a picture of the flower. We'd better get moving then, said Carl. When they reached the park, it was already mid-morning. It took a while to find their campsite and set up their tents. By the time they were ready to hike, it was midday. They spent the day searching for flowers in Russell's guide. By the time the sun was setting, they had found 10 varieties of wildflower. But Russell couldn't stop thinking about the ghost crocus. Please, Mr. Fredrickson, said Russell as they walked back to the campsite, can we look for a ghost crocus? Sorry, said Carl. It's getting late. We have to get back to camp before dark. That night, they sang around the campfire and told each other ghost stories. And then they looked at the constellations. All right, it's getting very late. It's time for bed, Carl said, opening his tent. He had forgotten about the ghost crocus, but Russell hadn't. He couldn't sleep knowing there was another flower he could find and identify. Hiking at night might be dangerous for a junior wilderness explorer, but Russell was a senior wilderness explorer. He knew he could handle it. Let's go, Doug, he whispered. We're going to go fetch something. I love fetching, said Doug. The woods were a lot darker than Russell had expected. Maybe Mr. Fredrickson was right. It was getting very late. But then he spotted a soft glow. It seemed to be coming from the back of a cave. What he didn't see was the steep drop. Too late. He tumbled down into the mouth of the cave. Oh no! Are you okay? Said Doug. But Doug didn't hear a response from the cave, so he ran back to the campsite. Carl awoke to a wet tongue licking his face. Master! Master! We were out in the dark looking for the ghost flower, and then he fell into the cave. What? Cried Carl. Quick, lead me to him. Down in the cave, everything went dark. At first, Russell felt alone and afraid, but then he remembered he was a senior wilderness explorer. I can handle this, he said to himself. He stood up and saw a glimmer of light. It was coming from around the corner. Russell, someone cried. It was Carl. He had tied a rope to a tree and was lowering himself down into the cave. Look, cried Doug happily. I have fetched my master and brought him back. I'm sorry, Russell, said Carl. I shouldn't have told you that story about the ghost crocus. Honestly, I never believed it myself. Ellie always had a great imagination. Well, I found something anyway, said Russell with a sly smile. Well, I'll be, said Carl. The next morning, Russell, Doug, and Carl packed up their things and headed home. The wilderness explorers are going to be so excited I found all the wildflowers, plus one. Russell chattered away in the back seat. Thank you, Ellie, Carl whispered with a smile. The end. Hope you have a good night and sweet dreams.